Two words. Who am I? The answer, the living legend of hair loss. That's who I am. And I'm in your face. I'm in your space. What we shall consider in this video, and I talk about this a lot, younger men who are fearing hair loss, often a lot of their fear is they believe that they will not be seen as attractive to women. That's their fear largely. And I constantly point out the irony that women do not see men as attractive in the same way that we see women to be attractive. We are physically wired to notice the physical traits of a woman, and that makes her attractive. And we are very shallow in that way. Women are shallow in their own ways, but not based on looks. They are going by everything by a whole different set of rules. And men who are emotionally mature, emotionally intelligent like me know this secret. And that's why as your mentor, I'm trying to remind you of this. You know, and I've shared this before, but there's an article that exists that you can Google from a website, Real Men, Real Style, the article called What Makes a Guy Cool, the Meaning of Being Cool. Ultimately, we can substitute the word cool for attractive, because this is really what happens. If you want to be seen as attractive to women, and even as guys, and I don't mean that in a sexual way, I mean like as someone, a guy that wants to be a friend, that thinks you're cool, here's the 11 things. Number one, that you're perceived as being friendly, competent, trendy, desirable, attractive, which again is not related just to simply how you look, and there's different concepts of what makes a man attractive. Number 6, unconventional. Number 7, pro-social, which means he helps others. Number 8, humorous. Number 9, confident. Number 10, emotionally controlled, which I'm always talking about emotional intelligence. And then number 11, hedonistic, which is actually self-indulgent. I know that sounds like a weird one, but if you've seen one of the best movies ever made, which is Fight Club, undoubtedly Tyler Durden, or Brad Pitt's character, he's the epitome of someone who's self-indulgent, but boy is that a cool character. So with that being said, we look at all these traits, and then something else that I always point out myself, and let me see if I can find my list here. I think it's right here. Yeah, here it is. I myself, in my years of doing these hair loss videos, in addition to what you just heard, here is Nick Shell's top 10 list of masculine traits based on society's perception. Number 1, he's confident. Number 2, he respects women and helps his fellow man. Number 3, he finds identity in his unique skill set. He's aware of what he's good at and what he's bad at. Number 4, he's healthy and active. Number 5, he's decisive. Number 6, he's committed to, especially to family and career. Number 7, that he's a leader. Number 8, that he's a good communicator. 9, that he's funny. And number 10, that he's emotionally intelligent. So you see an overlap in these two things, but I'm sharing with you all the secrets that make you attractive, not only to women, but also to the human race. Are you the kind of person that people want to be around, that they respect? You see an overlap on all these things, but specifically on my list of specifically masculine traits based on society's perception, on that list I created, number 3, he finds identity in his unique skill set. He's aware of what he's good at. He's aware of what he's bad at. That is something that is so important for the hair loss community. Whether you're actually balding or not, if you are worried that you're going to go bald and you're watching my videos and spending time watching them, that makes you part of this community. And this is something that I perceive about my audience, my supporters, watching my hair loss videos. Again, pointing out the irony that most of you have 0 hair loss. No matter what your age, some of you are only 16, some of you are 30. It doesn't matter what your age are. The fact that you are worried that you're eventually going to go bald, even if you have 0 hair loss, tells me that this will always be something you're worried about. You're always going to be worried that maybe at some point you're going to go bald. If only I can make it to 38 and at least have as much hair as Nick has. Or if I could at least make it to retirement and still have a full head of hair, that'd be cool. If I could at least die and be in my 80s in a coffin and a casket at my funeral, and people can look down and say, man, that guy lived a good life, and look at that head of hair. I mean, where is the end in sight ultimately with this silly concept about hair loss? Here's what I believe about a lot of my viewers, those of you especially who have no hair loss but fear it anyway. I predict that those of you who fall in that category, going back to number 3, You have not yet found your identity and your unique skill set. Part of doing that is knowing what you're bad at. For me, I'm horrible at math and science. Well, by default, the trade-off is I'm really good at spelling, English, communicating, anything like that I'm good at. And that's the balance. I know what I'm bad at. I know what I'm good at. I got my college degree for what I was good at. And since then, I've developed hobbies as well. There's certain things that I know more about than other people, and not just because of my YouTube channels. Hey, now that I got this Jeep, that's kind of a hobby that I do, and I'm learning to become better at driving in four-wheel drive and getting out of mud and all that thing. I've had some really close calls. But I have this identity that has nothing to do with my looks. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm bad at. I am open about both. And that's something a confident man, which confidence was on, I think both of those too. A confident man is quick to point out what he's bad at, but also he is comfortable in knowing what he's good at, and not to say, hey everybody, I'm good at this thing, but when the occasion arises, you're the guy that's good at that thing, whatever that thing is. And what happens is, when there's a lack of an identity that you have, you're more likely to focus on something very superficial that women don't even actually care about. The ones that do, you shouldn't care about them if they're that caught up in your hair, something that is completely natural and normal for a man to lose his hair. That's not a woman you should be attracted to anyway. Why would you want to chase her around? Ultimately, the fundamental issue, so many of my viewers, you're just too young to know what you're good or bad at. And therefore, you haven't really formed your identity. No, Nick, I'm really good at video games. That doesn't count. That's not an adult thing. As an adult, as a man, what's your skill set? What are you interested in? Become more involved in that thing to where you become the guy that everybody knows is good at that thing. And the things that you're bad at, openly admit them. Hey, just like me, I am no handyman. My dad is the ultimate handyman. I have none of those skills. I depend on him now as an almost 40-year-old man. I still depend on my dad to help me figure out very basic stuff. And that's ultimately never going to change. I'll learn some skills along the way, but ultimately, I'm always going to be really bad at any kind of handyman situation. It's never going to be my thing. And I openly talk about it. But sometimes when we talk about the things that we're bad at, it helps open the door for us to say, but at least I can do this thing and this thing. I'm pretty good at this thing. And just knowing that is already going to take your own internal focus off of something silly and ridiculous and pointless as your hair. Because it's all about how society perceives you, not how you think society perceives you. In reality, you as a man are being judged on a whole set of different rules, which I've shared in this video already. If you've ignored them or zoned out or thought that was boring, there's your trouble. That's your problem. Because the things you actually need to focus on, you're not. You're focusing on something very juvenile, which is your looks. That's a very junior high mentality. And for most of your life, you're going to be an actual man beyond the age of 18. And your whole identity and the concept of you being an attractive man is going to be based on these things. So I feel this is a fundamental issue. I feel videos like this that I make are not as popular, and that shows something about the demographics of my 7,500 subscribers. That it's easier for guys to watch a video about the Bermuda Triangle of hair loss, or to watch a video where I make with my mom and I explain how ultimately that your own mother can receive the male pattern baldness gene, though she's not bald, and I can explain that, and people will tune into that stuff. But when I start getting deep and I start getting real and actually trying to help you not to end up with the fate of the bald cell, the balding incel, because that's what's going to happen. Those people who refuse to find their identity outside of their looks, they continue to focus on something they cannot control. Nick Shell is emotionally intelligent. He focuses on the things he can control. And most of those things I listed today are things you can actually have some control over. Instead of, oh, well, at least I can get a hair transplant. that's still not solving the problem. If you haven't figured out what you're good at, you're not going to be known as, hey, he's the guy that's good at getting hair transplant. No, that's not how it works. I think the fundamental issue for so many guys that worry about hair loss, they haven't formed their identity based on what they're good or bad at because they're too young. And with enough age and enough wisdom, you'll realize how important that actually is. Your comments belong right here.